Welcome to the Glorious Beard Podcast. Today's episode is all about action and music, two things that go together quite well. We're going to have a look at some of the most iconic superstars of the heyday of the WWE. I'm talking beards and facial hair from the 1980s. We're also going to have a look at a former NFL superstar who would go from stocking shelves to defining what it really is to be a major champion in the NFL. And today's guest is Morgan Handley, who plays in a band called Shrink the Giant. We talked about everything from growing up in Austin, Texas, to being Mormon, to getting into music, and finally joining a professional band that actually took things seriously. Oh, and it was all from the driver's seat of his car. So be sure to stick around for that. But first, our own fantastic Johnny X is here to give a review of the latest Shrink the Giant EP that just dropped everywhere online.
It was the 4th of December, you shut me out. Said it was hard to remember and needed you around.
Formed in 2010, Shrink the Giant is a 6-member alt-rock band with pop sensibilities. Once they formed, they began immediately writing and recording their first record, which eventually became their self-titled debut in 2012. It was off to the races from there, as the band, on the strength of that album and their live performances, started picking up fans from around the world.
These are my demands. These are my demands.
With their latest release, 2025's 5-song Slow Lane EP, we find the band showing off their ever-evolving sound.
Baby, trying to make it last. It's already past. Being here feels fine.
Dreamy pop with multi-instrumental flair, with a healthy dose of reflective moods instead of full-ahead high energy. Overall, the songs vary in their tone, but a couple constants remain. Emotional clarity comes to mind, but so does self-reflection.
I told you every single day you never loved me that way. I couldn't ever make you stay. You're wrong, I'm right. Your falter fight.
It's the type of record you can listen to in your car with the windows down on a sunny day, but it also makes for a great soundtrack to a rainy, overcast day at home where you can sit back, absorb, and really feel the vibe, as they say.
Kissing up the name is honey, honey, oh yeah. I need your time in your ears and your money, money, yeah. You don't need to just look at me, oh everybody now. Forget your princess that you bring it funny, funny now.
Overall, Slow Lane plays into more mellow, reflective spaces of the indie rock world than some other bands you might think of in the genre. But it absolutely works, and it's a release you'll find yourself coming back to a lot. If I had one knock, it's the length. With only 5 songs, it definitely leaves you wanting more, but maybe that's the point. Either way, I look forward to seeing what else Shrink the Giant has coming down the pipe in the future to follow up on this release. Overall, I give the album 4 out of 5 stars. For the Glorious Beard, this has been the fantastic Johnny X.
Thank you for listening to the Glorious Beard Podcast. You can always find more on our website at www.thegloriousbeard.com. And of course, you can search The Glorious Beard to find us on social media. Morgan Handley did not take the straight road into music. He grew up in Austin, Texas before it became a tech magnet. He learned the flute as a child, nearly chased the classical world, and then found himself in basements recording on a karaoke machine while chasing sound. Life pulled him in different states, marriage, kids, time away from music, but he returned with a more clear sense of his own self and a deeper appreciation for creation without pretense. Now he's part of Shrink the Giant, where he blends his classical roots, his DIY ethic, and a steady, thoughtful outlook that comes from actually living through the twists and turns of life. And we talked about all of that and more while he sat in his car on an earth. We're going to go back to the beginning. You were born in 1981 in Austin, Texas. I have
Yes.
been to Austin. Full disclosure, I used to tour in a punk rock band. I toured all over the United States. I played Warped Tour. I played Mountain Dew Extreme Tour, BMX whatever tour, all snow tour, all that stuff. And I have been
Nice.
to Austin, of course, because every band goes to Austin.
Hmm.
But Austin was really different when you were born than
Yeah.
to what it is now. It wasn't all of these, tech companies and music venues and South by Southwest and all of that. Set the scene for me. How do you remember growing up there, and what kind of things do you feel maybe influenced you as you were growing up?
I think it was a very good place to grow up because it was my mom grew up in Alvin, a small town outside of Houston, but my dad was from New Jersey, and he went there like he ended up in Texas, Austin, somehow involved after like getting out of the military, and he fell in love with it and wanted to stay there. And both my parents went to the University of Texas at Austin, and so it was sort of like an intentional thing, that they wanted to be there. So I was always grown up with sort of this love of the place. It wasn't just like where we liked it because we lived there. It was because my dad wanted to be there. And it was always a very cool place because you were always surrounded by culture, like art and music and things like that. But at the same time, it was just sort of like just a cozy, I mean, I lived in South Austin, and a kind of a cozy little neighborhood that just still had some of that Texas down to earth, like barbecue and like longhorns and stuff like that. So it was, I when I go back now, there was I just remember how much I liked it. Like my brother was into art, and there was always like interesting festivals and things like that going on. It was My parents were hippies, and I think like it was sort of, by the time I was aware and stuff, they weren't really living that lifestyle or anything. They were just living a typical lifestyle. But I think that sort of that love for life, that love for beauty and stuff like that was always pretty present. And I remember going to things, you know, different community school and things like that, it just felt like a place where there was a lot going on of interesting things.
Before music, growing up in this environment, what kind of friendships did you have and relationships did you have with people that were kind of like setting the stage for later days?
A lot of the people and friends in my life, my friends, that before we got into music, we still hung out a lot. We did like rollerblading. We played like street hockey. I'd hang out at my friend's parents' house, and I think I just felt like the f- the type of friends I had were very invested in me just by culture, I guess. And so I think I felt very safe, so that when we started getting into music and other things, and even before that, just like our teachers at school and stuff, I felt that like people were very interested in what I was doing. And I think that allowed me to maybe feel like I had something to say once we got into music, because I remember even like as I was getting into music, like it was around eighth grade, my teacher was interested in it, and my best friend who got into music with me, she kind of followed us, saw us in high school, and so I do feel like, in general, that my relationships, it just felt like people cared about you and about me, and I think that um, that encouraged me to feel like I had something to say when I decided to play music.
When I toured through Salt Lake City, I was asleep in the back of the van, and when I jumped out of the van, I looked up and I saw those mountains, man. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, those mountains. I will never forget that view. And
Yes.
we were playing at a venue that was run by Mormons. and they
Yeah,
were
yeah.
the absolute greatest people to us. Like
Yeah.
everything we wanted. You want a pizza? We'll go get you a pizza. You want this? We'll go get you that.
Nice.
Here's the showers. You can sleep on the stage. You can do it. It was a great time. But those
Yeah.
mountains, my goodness.
Yes. Yes.
All right. So we started talking about music.
Okay.
You got into the flute, and I need to hear the story. Maybe it was an unexpected thing because growing up we were forced to play the recorder in school. We
Yeah.
had to do
Yeah.
all that stuff, and there was the school band. What about it? What about the flute? Like, really got? How does a person get excited about playing the flute? Like, run me through that whole thing. I need to know everything about it.
Yeah, it's actually sort of an interesting study in sort of how much nurture versus nature, and how much sometimes we wonder who we are outside of everything of our environment that our environment that we've grown up around. So I actually started the flute at 5 years old. So it was before I knew anything about the cultural implications or that lots of mainly girls played the flute. Having a name Morgan already put me in a sort of ambiguous state as I grew up. But anyway, the we used to go to UT, the University of Texas, and they had these children music programs. It was the Suzuki method that I might still be around, but it's a Japanese method that it focuses a lot on like playing by ear rather than sight reading. A lot of times kids get discouraged by sight reading. And I used to go with my brother and my mom to UT for his cello lessons. Somehow he got involved in cello lessons. I go to his concerts, and I was like, I want to play an instrument. And there was just one time, just a sign that said flute lessons, Suzuki flute lessons, and I told my mom, I was like, that's what I want to do. And she remembers thinking, that maybe complicated as a guy, playing flute in Texas and the 80s, and but she wanted to support me what I wanted to do and didn't want to put any things into my head about might give me doubts or may not be warranted. So the flute teacher, I remember, came over to our house and we were talking to her, and we started, and I ended up taking flute lessons with her for probably 10 years before yeah, up until probably when I was in junior high, so and it was interesting because I have sort of two sides. That was my classical side, and we had some fun. We went to like the yearly flute convention things, and one time there's a I don't even know what it's called, but there's a women's college up in Denton next to Dallas that we won or there was a women's college. I don't know anything about it now, but we won one of the youth competitions and got to play at a recital that was on the local radio station. And it was partly because my partner was awesome. We did this duet, and so I kind of was on the outskirts. I didn't do sort of the band route. I did band in 8th grade and was not super into it. Kind of didn't like the stigma of band nerd. I was affected by things like that at the time. So I didn't actually end up in band again till my senior year of high school, when I kindly had learned to outgrow sort of cultural stigmas and had one of the best times of my life. But to answer your question, I didn't. It was just as a pure 5-year-old kid, for something, I saw the sign, it was the opportunity, and I just went for it. And interestingly, I do really like the flute. I like jazz flute. I like wooden flutes, and yeah, it was sort of just one of those things that I didn't think too much about.
But then you, correct me if I'm wrong, you aspired to become a flute maker and possibly be a professional and go to Juilliard.
Yes.
That's a whole lot of what do they call it? Weird initiative.
It was. That's a perfect description of my life. I'm very unorthodox, weird initiative. That is a perfect. That's probably what I'm going to get a tattoo of. The what happened was I had these magazines, Flute World, and my friend saw like this old flute master advertisement. This guy in Japan, he's like, "That'd be a cool job." And I was like, "That would be a cool job." And so I think I've always enjoyed the craft of things as well as the art, and I think I started just looking into it, and I was like, yeah, I don't know. I applied at this flute maker up in Boston, not Boston, Worcester they call it. It's in Massachusetts, and just had the idea that I wanted to venture off and yeah, have both sides, have the technical side that I could fall back on, but then also aspire to be a professional player.
Well, but then, you're in senior year, you're well into the flute, you have all these aspirations. This is late 90s.
Yes.
Grunge is at its peak.
Yeah.
Pop punk music is out of control with like Blink-182 and all of that, Good Charlotte and whatever.
Yeah.
And the golden age, what I consider to be the golden age of rap, Jay-Z and all of
Oh,
them
yeah.
were really hot. There were a
Yes.
lot of things going on.
Yes.
But then you somehow find a transition, like from playing the flute into deciding that you want to play guitar and be in a band and all of this. We talk about these things called kitchen sink moments. It's where you're standing over the kitchen sink and suddenly you're just like, yes, this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
What was that moment for you that made you say, screw Juilliard, screw all of that, I'm going to go and be in a rock band, or I'm going to go play rock guitar, or I want to do this, I want to do that. Like, what was influencing you? What was that moment for you?
I was coming off of like a 3 to 4 year, where I said I was in college, but really I was just playing music, guitar music. And I was very inspired by, there's a small record label up in Olympia. I assume they still exist, called K Records. I don't know if you're familiar with them. That's where I think Modest Mouse actually started there, and like on the song "Sleepwalking," that Calvin Johnson, the owner's sister, is the background vocalist on that Modest Mouse song. Anyway, there was a band called the Microphones, and there was a whole, I don't know, all the bands on that record label, they were lo-fi, but that one guy, Phil Elverum, he was probably the most influential music person in my life. Like, even now, no one will touch him, as far as he just challenged everything I knew about sound, about recording, about music. And so for a few years before all that stuff happened, I was playing a lot of shows there, and wanted to become a professional musician. And sort of at the tail end of that, I don't know what happened, but I think I was like, well, let me try sort of this classical route. That didn't necessarily work out, partly because I was young, didn't have a plan, just thought if I made good music, and it was such an obscure type of music, I don't know if it would have ever been a viable career option. But I think towards the end of that sort of singer-songwriter, and I'll say I had a hard time playing in bands. I think I had a hard time being in bands with people who I didn't respect what they wrote. And I felt pretty bad about myself. I was like, I'm like a diva. I can't work with anybody. So I started doing a lot of solo stuff, getting into acoustic solo. I got into sort of like an electronic sort of chapter, and really had a lot of fun. But then towards the end, I was like, well, let me try something a little more serious, a little more established. The last night before I went up to Boston, New York, Boston area, I was staying in New York, but job was in Boston. I was hanging out with who later became my wife, who's my ex-wife now, and we had a really good conversation. It was sort of one of the things where like we had dated before, and it hadn't worked out, but it kind of seemed like there was a lot more hope now. So when I was up there the whole time, I was like, oh crap, I don't want to leave Lindsay, my ex-wife. And so when it was starting to appear that it wasn't going to work out, I thought, you know what, I'm going to go for love. So I went back, dated my wife, got married, and then I did music, but I didn't do much music when my kids were growing up for about 10 or 12 years, until I got into Shrink the Giant, kind of giving up the dream. And then so the kitchen sink moment is that they contacted me on this website called Band Mix, or it's like a Facebook for musicians. So it was kind of like I fell into it, and I tried my hand at things, but then in the end just got married, had kids, and then when they got a little older, was able to start doing music.
Thank you for listening to the Glorious Beard Podcast. We have been speaking with Morgan Handley of Shrink the Giant, and we'll get back to that interview soon. But first, there are a few other things to do. The Glorious Beard is proud to partner with Men Matter & Co. Because, as if making your beard extra shiny and awesome wasn't enough, Men Matter & Co. are also out there making an impact in men's lives through supporting mental health charities with every single sale that they make. So, go and give your beard the business and feel good that you're making a difference where it counts because men matter. Right now, during the month of November, it's Men's Mental Health Month, and you can go to menmatterandco.com and find everything 50% off. That's right. For the month of November, everything at menmatterandco.com is 50% off. Beard care products and everything that go with it. So, go and check them out today and tell them that the Glorious Beard Podcast sent you. The 1980s was an incredible time for professional wrestling, and it brought forth some of the wildest and most larger-than-life characters that you could imagine. And some of those characters, well, they had quite the glorious beards.
WrestleMania 3 at the Silverdome in Pontiac, Michigan. It's a day that I'm certain my guest at this time will not forget. I'm talking about the former Intercontinental Champion of the world, Macho Man Randy Savage.
Nothing means nothing.
Nothing
means nothing, man.
Nothing means nothing. What do you mean by that?
More, I'm talking about all the way to the top, yeah. Unjustifiably in a position that I'd rather not be in, but the cream will rise to the top. Oh, yeah. Macho Madness, yeah, has got more to offer than President Jack Tunney thinks that I got, yeah.
Oh, yeah. The WWE, or WWF, as it was known in those days, gave us some of the most exciting sporting events of the 1980s. And while doing so, they were there rocking some of the best beards on this side of the ring. Today, on The Glorious Beard, we want to take an epic look back at the superstars of wrestling of the 1980s and the glorious beards attached to some of these awesome athletes.
One, two, three, listen to him. One, two, three again. Yes, he got him. Whoa. Whoa. What a clothesline by Razor.
Almost.
The World Wrestling Federation produced some of the biggest names in sports for 4 decades, and while it's produced some great names over the years, not many eras live up to the 1980s. There were some amazing powerhouses at that time, names like Macho Man Randy Savage, Hulk Hogan, and Andre the Giant that people still think of today when they think about professional wrestling, and there was some glorious facial hair in this era.
Again?
Again.
Art Powell bored?
Yeah.
Step into a Slim Jim. Turn to the spice. That baby juicy taste. You know, excitement. Step into a Slim Jim.
Macho Man Randy Savage may have had the best of the best, or the cream of the crop, as he would say. And he may have been the best of the best, because not many wrestlers stand up to Macho Man's incredible legacy. He was a 2-time WWF champion, and very few wrestlers can stand up to that beard.
I'm your friend, and I don't think that you can separate business from friendship. And you know what? Your mustache is crooked.
Your beard is a little sideways, too.
Don't you think I have a little bit of interest right there?
Macho Man's beard was a true sight to behold. It was thick, black, and screamed power. I mean, he was the Tower of Power after all. Not many wrestlers brought what Macho Man brought in the ring, and not many wrestlers have entertained us in the way that the Macho Man did. He had one of the best beards of our time. However, he had a fierce rival in the WWE who might have something to say about him being the best.
A block and a right hand and another one. I can't believe this is happening. There's the big boot. With the boot. And the leg drop. 1, 2,
Hulk Hogan. He was the man, and not just because we all had a friend whose dad kinda looked like him. Hulk was Macho Man's biggest rival, and for good reason. He was a 6-time WWF champion, and more to the point for us here at the Glorious Beard, he had some pretty wild facial hair.
very well could be over.
They've got clippers! They're shaving off the
mustache! Oh, they're sicker than ever.
Oh, no. This goes beyond inflicting bodily harm. This goes beyond a quest for the World Heavyweight title.
What they're doing, Bishop, they are taking him apart, piece by piece, piece by piece.
Hulk had perhaps the only beard that beats Macho Man's brother. It was blonde, but it was weird and wild. It was a mustache that came down and formed a reverse goatee. Not an easy look to pull off, but Hulk Hogan made it work. And Hulk's rivalry with Macho Man was one of the key storylines in 80s wrestling. He did it all and looked good doing it. He would later have a rather trashy beard as Hollywood Hulk Hogan in the NWO as part of WCW, but that's a story for another time. And Hulk Hogan was a fan favorite. This next wrestler may have been one of the most popular and greatest to ever grace the ring with his massive presence.
Andre the Giant is pointing his finger at me. Inside the locker room, he's joking with the referee. Gesturing body slams, I shake in my boots. I'm paralyzed with fright at what is flying off the turnbuckles tonight.
He stood at 7 feet 4 inches tall, holds countless WWE records, and he was everyone's favorite character in The Princess Bride, a 1980s classic. I'm speaking, of course, about Andre the Giant. And Andre was not just a big man in the ring, he was a big deal in the ring. Andre the Giant was a WWE champion, and he was undefeated for nearly 15 years, losing to, you guessed it, Hulk Hogan in 1987.
Do you think I tell you everything you know in professional wrestling? But I didn't. And believe me, WrestleMania 3 will be your last lesson. I gave you anything, Mary.
Now, I was an Andre fan, so my heart didn't break when this happened. However, most people's did.
Now, I know what you're probably thinking. When did Andre the Giant have a beard? Well, while he didn't wear one in The Princess Bride, Andre the Giant occasionally sported a thick black beard. His beard would come in so thick that when he wore it, and with his height, Andre could practically be mistaken for a bear. Now, just like everything he did, his beard went big. Andre was a gentle giant, but inside the ring, he was an absolute monster.
What was Andre like? I mean, we touched on this once when you were here before.
I was here 10 years ago.
I heard that, and tell me if this is true, that when you first met him, you ran in fear.
Yes.
That's true?
Yes.
Really?
The largest human being on the earth was in front of me. Yes, I was petrified.
And you're just like, I got to get out of here.
What do you do with that?
How did he react?
Was the sweetest.
You found that out when you came back later?
Yeah.
And how did he kind of express that sweetness with you?
We were freezing cold in the middle of this forest, riding horses in the rain, and I didn't have an overcoat for some reason. And he just came over. He's always hot. Oh, like in a tank top when we'd be in
big guy, yeah.
Nordic wear. And he just put his hand on my head, and his fingers came down to here, and warmed my head with his hand.
The WWE is still a big force in sports today, but its heyday was absolutely the 1980s. With characters like Macho Man, Hulk Hogan, and Andre the Giant strutting around the ring and knocking heads, no era before or since is its rival. And these three men were not just some of the best wrestlers of their era, they went to the top rope with their beard games as well.
giant is pointing his finger at me.
You are listening to the Glorious Beard Podcast, a production of JXB Media. You can find us online at thegloriousbeard.com and search for us on social media by putting in The Glorious Beard. Oh, and we've also got some really awesome videos on our YouTube channel that you should check out as well. You and I kind of started out the same way, as I understand it. Your sister had a karaoke machine.
Yeah.
And so you went about the process of kind of trying to create your own stuff on this karaoke machine. When I was a kid, I had one of those dual tape deck boom boxes.
Yes.
And I would sit and listen to the radio, and when a song I really liked came on, I'd record the song. When it would end, I would stop it, and I would switch it, and I would record my own DJ drops, and I would make my own radio shows when I'm like 10 years old, you know, doing it that way. So there'd be little bits of the DJ that would be cut, or like a commercial or something that I'd have to cut real quick. And, you know, so we're kind of in the same vein as that, but doing it on a karaoke machine and coming from the creative arts background that you did in Austin with your parents and all of that, it makes sense to me now hearing that part of it. Your approach to creativity as a whole is kind of, you know, it's kind of in this place where you're swooping back and forth between wanting to do your own stuff and being a Juilliard level professional orchestral musician and all of this. Run me through how those, we'll call them basement sessions. How did those basement sessions benefit you later in life, and how did they contribute to your creative process to bring you to where you are now?
Well, it was a really good time because one thing I have struggled with up until when I got divorced about 10 years ago was, you know, for whatever reason, am a pleaser. It's like I absorb a lot of things and try to become what is needed, which has value, but I think so often I didn't know who I was. And so what happened is I left Texas, where I had lots of friends. I had a couple of different music things going on that I was very sad to leave. I felt very loved there, very established. I moved to Utah, and I had a hard time making friends the first couple of years. So I had all this time in the basement where I was a little lonely, but it was a time for me to really see who I was outside of any type of context. And who I was very, very passionate about music, and the guitar represented the totally different side of music for me, where flute was about the classical side, you know, very established, sort of cerebral way of enjoying music, where the guitar was all about fun, all about just like messy self-expression, very human, very human. And so and what's funny, the reason I got into guitar, I grew up with my dad. He was a guitarist. He played shows and stuff. My mom was a piano teacher. So I was around the guitar my whole life. And I was 15. I went to a church camp in San Antonio. Huge. Texas has huge, everything's big in Texas. Football, church camps. Anyways, there's probably like 1,000 people. There's a talent show. These three guys played Lightning Crashes by Live, a simple song. They were not good. The singer was bad, and I wouldn't have done any better. But the crowd went wild, specifically the girls went wild. And I'm a 15-year-old thinking, holy crap, I need to learn the guitar. That's how you get girls. So I went home and asked my dad how to play Penny Royalty from Nirvana, the first song I picked. And the rest is history. That summer I was obsessed, and that whole summer I played. So one more year, and then we moved to Utah. So I was 1 year into guitar, and I did not need any type of entertainment. I just played the guitar. So it allowed me to and I was really into songwriting and I didn't know that. And so what happened when those basement sessions is that and the only reason I used the karaoke machine, that was the only double cassette we had, but it had a microphone, which was helpful. So I could add vocals. And so it was a time for me to be, I had a lot of time to myself. I had a bass, I had a guitar, I had a keyboard that I could do drums on. And it allowed me to sort of just like, what's crazy is how many even songs I write now that originated in either high school or college when I had a lot of time to noodle around and gave me this huge reservoir of riffs and sort of understandings of what chords work and what things I like. So I would say that was sort of and also it just showed me that this is a consistent passion in my life. This is something that when I had nothing else to do, when you're not compelled to do anything else, like what you choose to do says a lot about who you are. And I think it just showed me that, yeah, this is what I love doing.
If you were to go back and tell yourself some lessons, or maybe like, you know, so give yourself some inspiration in that moment, what would the lesson be there? What would you say to that person?
I think what I would say, because I honestly really treasure that time and I wouldn't change anything about it. And I know that's not what you're asking. I'm just thinking about it. But I think what I would say is just remember what this feels like. And if it's a gift for anyone to have something like that happen where they're just sort of in a space, a state of flow with what they love. And it's like, I would have just been like, remember what this feels like and try to always keep an aspect of that in life so that you are being sort of internally driven by who you are. And rather than just after that, it kind of, um, it just kind of got swallowed up by what I felt like I was supposed to be or what I needed to be. And what was sad about that is that not only was I not super good when you try to just create what you think people want, not musically, but in life in general, you're not going to do a very good job because it's not coming from a place of authenticity. And then B, you're also not even giving them the value that you do have. And so I feel like I would have just been like, remember how this feels, and just remember that you always need to sort of feel that internal drive in life. That's probably what I would say.
All of these things have happened to you. You've had this kind of like zigzag trajectory all over the United States. You've grown up in what are considerably different environments. You've developed in considerably different environments, I should say. Been through your divorce, health struggles with kids, health struggles on your own. You had your own moment. How do you take one of the things that I do is I try to take, even from the most terrible things that have happened, I try to take the positives and discard the rest and put the positives
Yes.
forward. How is that process for you? How do you do that in your life? And how do you go through the day-to-day of that?
I don't know if I always do that. There is one book that surprisingly has stuck with me is Tracker by Tom Brown. If you haven't heard of it, it's a guy, I think he's from New Jersey, but this guy is just this New Jersey dude who for whatever reason, got to hang out with this Native American guy who he called grandfather. And he taught him how to track. And he actually has several books about medicinal herbs, about nature science, but there's one about tracking. And he's a professional tracker. He tracks like criminals and things like that, which is a lost art, to us. It's kind of feels very, very sort of mythical to know someone's actually a tracker. And he says a lot of things in the book about tracking that just blow my mind. And anyway, one thing that stuck with me, he said that he was with grandfather, and he said as a kid, he was always annoyed that grandfather, when it was like really hot or really cold outside, he never seemed to care. And so he said one day, he's like, grandfather, why don't you notice like when it's super hot or super cold? We're miserable and you're just like, you don't even notice. He's like, and grandfather said, it's not that I don't notice them. It's just it doesn't bother me. And he's like, well, why doesn't it bother you? And he said that grandfather looked at him trying to weigh if he would understand the answer. And he said, because they're real. And the point is that in tracking, you have to get uncomfortable. You have to get down in the weeds. You have to get in places that are uncomfortable and will give you itches, will give you bug bites. But as if you disconnect yourself from reality in the name of comfort, you're losing a lot of information. And the way I see it, all of the stuff that I've been through, I think a while back I was like laughing because I was like trying to pull this extension cord from my back seat and it got caught on something. And I was like, why can't I just pull an extension cord out of my back seat and it doesn't catch on something? Why is it that every step of the way something seems to be why don't things go smoothly? And in my mind I was like, well, it's because the universe doesn't revolve around you. The universe doesn't know what your intentions are. It's not trying to be difficult. It just is what it is. It's very impersonal and has nothing against you. So when I think about all these things that I've been through, um, all I could say is that they're real. And the reason that I've had various understandings of what was going on or what the problems were. And I think that kind of like hot or cold weather, it's all been information and it's all been things that have taught me sort of the nature of life and sort of taught me that or maybe things that I wasn't looking at super clearly. And I think that if I just try to think of it that way, that there's this sort of this reality of things that are going to be no matter what, like with my daughter's health problems, it wasn't like a cause for that. It just happened. I'm just like, that's just reality. And I can tune into reality or I can fight it. But I'm going to do myself a favor by trying to just embrace what reality is and learn from it.
My saying in those extension cord moments that you hear me say at least 6 times a day is, it's not that difficult, is it?
Truly,
So
truly.
It's like, and you're right. It's the simplest of things. It's like things should be so simple, but then they're like so big, and I just find myself going, it's not that difficult. It's really not. It's really not. So yeah.
Truly.
The Glorious Beard podcast is proud to partner with Bridges for Brianna, a nonprofit working to prevent loss from mental health crises. Founded in memory of 15-year-old Brianna Dorgan, the organization connects individuals and families with the support and resources they need while helping communities talk more openly about mental health. To learn more, you can get involved by visiting bb4bpa.org. Because no one should have to face this alone. Time goes on, you find Shrink the Giant.
Yes.
Am I understanding you correctly that it was your first real band?
No, I had been in several bands in college and high school, but I hadn't played in a band for maybe 10 years or so. So it's definitely the most professional band I've been in. All the other bands were just like, college and high school bands. But I did have some, I did have, my main band when I was in college, high school did put out a CD. They were called Cool School. There's probably some CDs out there. But anyway, but yeah, so there was not my first band, but they were the most professional. And as I mentioned before I had a hard time being in bands unless I was like telling everybody what to do. When I got a big nice thing about Shrink the Giant is they're such proficient and good musicians that not only do I feel a trust in what they're doing, often I'm like, well, let me give you guys something, and they make it better than I ever could. So that's the difference in Shrink the Giant.
It makes a big difference when you're with like-minded people who have the same kind of I wouldn't say creative vision because we all see it from our own perspective, but that have the same creative passion. You're shooting music videos, you're working on stuff, and it's like, wow, this is, And I mean, I toured all over the country. I released 3 CDs. I've hung out with this, that, and the other person and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, we were never at the level that you guys are where you're at now. Like with, of course, technology was different then and all that.
Yeah.
But,
Right.
you get into the band and it's a family-based band. Are you the only person or one of the only people that's not part of the family?
The drummer. Yeah.
And furthermore to that, like, that's a different thing to deal with.
Totally.
But that aside, like, how does that and your previous experiences and your kind of creative drive figure into the band? Like, what are some of the best things about it?
The drummer is the only other one who's not in the family. So him and I we don't bond over that, but we have that connection. And the Barr family, that's their last name, Barr, are not a typical family. They are pretty amazing, and I feel like a member of the family. The mom and dad are very involved. The dad's the manager. The mom, she's the one who was very, and I don't know all of her positions, but she's always been in film. She's like a producer, maybe. Anyway, that's the reason our videos are good is because they're all very into film. They've been doing it their whole lives, and it is pretty amazing. Like you and me are from a similar generation, so I'm like the old guy in the band. I look young. That's how I pass. Because they're a family, they are able to have a level of they can work at a higher level because they're not going to offend each other. They're not going to break up. And honestly, sometimes I think about it that the Stefania, Sebastian, and John Christian, and then the dad and the mom, it's like, even if anything happens to me or Alec, the band will continue to go on because it's such a strong brand. But the thing is, they have made it so clear that they want me to always be a part of the family. And so I feel like an honorary part of the family. And I think that that because they have been doing this for a long time, not only is there a high level of cohesion, but there's just it's like a finely tuned machine. Like, and they're still learning the way, but they've been doing it for over 10 years. And it just feels like they know exactly where they want to go, what they want to do, and it's everything I add is valued. I feel like there's a lot of momentum because they're a family, because I've been doing it for a long time, and because we get along so well.
As a musician and a creative and an artist, every musician gets onto the stage for a different reason. And every musician has their own experience on stage when they're in the midst of it. And I know mine. Mine was always to disappear into this other world where everything was possible. And the connection with the audience, even if it was just one person in the audience, was my main goal, making that connection to influence that person's life. But I want to know yours. When you get onto stage, what is it about being on stage, performing live, and being in the moment, whether it's to 10 or 1,000 or however many people, we play the same. We always play the same. Tell me about that world that takes place when you get onto stage in front of a crowd.
I would say there's two things going on. One is sort of just like my own state of flow. Like even if there was no audience, I would still love playing. And I love just that state of harmony and just the state of flow. But particularly live situations, I think it's similar for me. I think life is complicated. It's got no easy answers, and you're always in a state of travail. And so I feel like if I can, for like 30 minutes or an hour, help us all to create a situation where we're putting our hearts out there and sort of being vulnerable in a way that we're never vulnerable with each other, and just being like, this is who I am, hey, and then playing these sounds that just take us all to a state of sort of happiness where we can kind of forget about all the complications and life doesn't feel complicated for an hour. That's my goal. so that we can have just like a moment of goodness amidst this world of travail and just complications. And it's not, and I don't feel that life is bad. Just the reality is just that you never escape travail. It's always there when you wake up, when you go to bed. It's never simple. It's always complicated. You're always wearing somebody down. Somebody's always wearing down you. But it's also for many years I've wanted to become a massage therapist for the same reason. For 1 hour, we don't have to talk about politics. We don't have to talk about why your business sucks, or your job sucks. And you can, for that moment, just escape all that and feel good. And there's something so healing about that.
I was talking to somebody yesterday about it, and they said, "Who's your guest tomorrow?" And I said, "He's got this creamy butterscotch beard." And they're like, "That is so abnormal. That's like nobody." You know, and I go, "I know. You wait until you see it." You have obviously a great relationship with your beard. It's big. It's full. We'll get to that. But also, you live in Utah. And run me through that process, because you referred to it as a quiet signal.
Yes.
Kind of give me the rundown on that.
I don't know the official policy. And in full disclosure, my parents, they were hippies, but by the time I was born, they had actually converted to Mormonism. So that's why I moved up with my mom, is that I was raised Mormon, and so I have an inside view of all this. And it's wonderful people, and it's a good place. But Utah is a strange place where it's become a culture more than sort of a faith in some ways. Obviously, there's a lot of insincere people, but there's a Hulu show, The Secret Lives of Mormon Housewives, that captures Utah culture. They are not part of they represent Utah to a T. It's like a wonderful sociological. So I say all that because there's sort of a culture of appearance. You want to appear to be a good person and clean shaven. And like I said, I don't know the official policy if you're not supposed to have a beard. My daughters tell me that there's a lot of beards at their church. However, it's definitely this thing where it marks you out as maybe not a devout Mormon to have a beard. Salt Lake, even when you came, Salt Lake has not ever been in the last 20 or 30 years a Mormon hotspot. It's in fact people trying to rebel against that. So there's always a lot of beards in Salt Lake, but it's not even a thing of rebellion. But I think what it is I think what I felt growing up in the faith was that you weren't necessarily, there was something you were supposed to be. And it wasn't even toxic a lot of times. It was just that it was sort of this understanding that you need to aspire to this certain level of something, and sort of being human wasn't as celebrated. And I think what happened was I started growing the beard, and I think what it is I think what I was trying to say earlier is that I feel like for someone who's in a situation who doesn't even know, they may have some cognitive dissonance about who they are and who they're supposed to be, and that they need to live up to this clean cut image. I feel that like having a beard is a way to be like, it's okay to be who you are. It's okay to be human, and I'm here. And if I'm here, it's okay for you to be human too. One thing that I think a lot about, I mentioned to Kaylin, I think that I'm trying to write this series of novels, and one of the big themes that I'm discovering is that there's sort of this, we have these aspirations outside of religion, political, cultural. We have these aspirations of who a person should be, of like the way we should think, the way we should operate, and basically a data-driven existence based on what we know. But then being human is sort of a different animal. And being human has sort of these realities and these sort of, we can't live by just data. We need music, we need stories, we need ways to interpret the world. We're not just computers, and there's things we can't escape. Like, for example, clapping after shows. Where does that come from? Why do we hit our hands together? If you have a problem with it, it doesn't matter. Humans are going to keep doing it. And so I feel like a beard for me represents we're human. There's no escaping it. There's certain realities that of being human, and it's not a bad thing. We need to accept it. We're going to be more happy if we can accept the realities of being human. And I feel like in a strong faith-driven society, you get kind of separated from that. And I'm like, it's okay. I'm here too. We're all human. It's okay for you to be human too.
Close your eyes and imagine a blind person standing in front of you. They've never seen you before in their life, and explain your beard to them.
Well, I would say it is creamy blonde. My hair is bright white, but I'd say my beard is a slightly more reddish hue with some different flecks of blondish and reddish. And it's pretty big, maybe 4 inches or so, and it's pretty puffy and kind of wiry.
You have advice about not over-mixing pancake batter. And
Definitely.
After everything that you've talked to, I think that the things that you've talked about run in conjunction with your advice about pancake batter. Put all of that together. There's a lot underneath of it. How do you remind yourself of all of that? And what's your advice on the pancake batter? How does it go together when your life gets complicated?
I've often heard that you don't want to overmix pancake batter. It is bad for it. You want to just kind of get it together and then use it. For me, that is it connects to that in life. We think a lot. We think that our thoughts are reality. And unfortunately, none of us are completely tied to reality. We project a lot. So much of our experience is subjective. And so when we put a lot of effort towards these goals that we think we want based on a reality we think we see, so often we're kind of off. And that's just human. We're never going to have a perfect view. And so I'm a perfect example of spending a lot of effort and a lot of just beating myself up, trying to achieve these things I thought I wanted based on a reality I thought was real. And it turned out it wasn't quite right. And so what do you do? And I'm just like, don't mix the pancake batter too much. Don't take yourself too seriously. Maybe the clearest things that we can be motivated by are the persistent passions that we have. We don't know why they're there. Like for me, for writing, I wanted to write for many years, couldn't justify it. And when I started writing, it was like my life's calling, and I can't even say why. So I think it's like, kind of like Eckhart Tolle said in the Power of Now, I think that's a book. He's like, your thinking is a tool, but it's not everything. And so for me, I'm just like, don't ever assume you have all the answers. And even more so, don't kill yourself trying to achieve these things you think you want, or these based on these realities that we think we see, because we don't. We're never perfectly in possession of the facts. We never have a perfect reality. And if something starts to kill us or to feel wrong, you can trust that and don't try to like become a fanatic based on these things, because they're not super real anyway. And if you just kind of you're making pancakes, you want to follow your passions, just kind of don't overdevelop things too much, and just kind of go with the things that are persistent, the things that are not overthought. And I think that's what it is. It's just not to ever think that you're perfectly in possession of the facts. So
You love me, lie to me.
Thank you for listening to the Glorious Beard podcast. Our guest today was Morgan Handley of Shrink the Giant. You can find Shrink the Giant everywhere that music is streaming, and also on their website at shrinkthegiant.com. Our production director at JXB Media is Bob McCoy. Our executive producer is Joseph Kay. Associate producers include Damian Miller and Sabrina Dene. There were a couple of people who spent some time at the keyboard typing out the great words for this episode, and they're comprised of Joseph Kay and Nathan Richards, along with the fantastic Johnny X. Of course, the podcast does not sound great without the efforts of people turning the dials and pushing buttons and making the edits, and those people included Ella Zing and Jade Westner. The smooth vocal talents that poured into your eardrums for this episode included Bob McCoy, the fantastic Johnny X, and Damian Miller. Our production assistants for this episode were Kaylin Graff and Jade Westner. Our story editor was Joseph Kay. Assistant story editor was Morgan Horvath. Our social media team is led by Sabrina Dene, and they make a bunch of great things online. You can find their excellent work on Instagram, YouTube, and more by searching The Glorious Beard. The Glorious Beard is a production of JXB Media, a subsidiary of Top Secret Television Productions. Be sure to like and share, subscribe, follow, whatever other fun stuff your podcast platform allows you to do, and find us online at thegloriousbeard.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.